Section 2.1, Solving Linear Equations. To begin with, let's define some of the terminologies in this section. For instance, what is solve? Solve means find the value of the unknown variable. Okay? Linear means equations which they happen to be in this form, meaning the power of the x has to be 1. For example, 2x minus 3 equals 4 is a linear equation. What's so good about linear equation? They only have one answer. So only one answer. Later on in chapter 8 or 5, we'll learn about quadratic equations, which they have like 2 answers, and higher degree polynomial equations, which they have multiple answers. For as far as the linear equations, there is only one answer. What is an equation? Equation is equality of 2 statements. Okay. For instance, 4 plus 1 is equal to 5. So that's an equation. X minus 5 is equal to 6. That's an equation. So equation, I should also mention that it's in a statement with an equal sign in it. So it's in a statement with the equal sign. Anytime you see an algebraic statement with the equal sign, you can bet your money that's an equation. What's a like terms? These are algebraic expressions with what? The same letters or unknowns and the same exponents or powers. For example, let's say I got 2xy and negative 6xy. These guys happens to be like terms. On the other hand, if I have, let's say, 4x squared and 6x, these are unlike terms, even though they have the same common variables, but the powers of the x don't match, so we cannot combine them. What is the degree of a term? Degree of the term is the sum of the exponents, provided the exponents are whole numbers. Remember what whole numbers are. Those are like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Meaning the counting numbers, including 0, those are called whole numbers on the variables. So it's the addition of the powers. For instance, this guy is the what? Only variable here. So I would say this is a 3rd degree. Later on, we'll call this monomial, which is a single term. This guy is also a single term, and it's what? The power of the x is 2, so this is called 2nd degree term. Okay? Sometimes you have constants, meaning there are no x's attached to the number. If that's the case, there is this invisible x with power of 0, so this is like 0 degree. So constants always have degree of 0. If the term consists of more than one variable, you add the powers of the variables. For instance, here, the invisible power of x is 1, but then there is power of 2 for y. So the degree of this term is the sum of these powers. So this is 3rd degree because we have to add the powers, correct? And let's just make one more example. Let's say you got 8x, y, z. This is a single term. You have what? 3 variables. And the powers of the variables happens to be 1, which you don't see. So I would also call this 3rd degree term, a term whose degree happens to be 3. Okay, numerical coefficients. Numerical coefficients is the number attached to the variable. Like in this case is -4. In this case is, let's say, 6. In this case is, let's say, 8. So those are numerical coefficients. Coefficients, those are the constants or numbers attached to the variables. Constants, those are numbers with no x's. So these are constants, no variables attached to these numbers. Okay, so what is combining like terms? Combining like terms, combine means add or subtract, correct? Add or subtract. Okay, so like terms, as we defined on the previous page, is what? Is terms with expressions with the same letters and same exponents. So in this particular example, number 1, these two guys, these two terms happens to be like terms. Why? They both contain x, and the power of x, which you don't see, happens to be 1. Okay, so we get to combine those guys. So this guy is one of a kind, but these two guys combine. How do you combine? Well, you kind of combine the coefficients of the like terms and attach the common variable, and then write down the -3 and then perform this operation. So the answer is -2x squared, -5 plus 7 is what? 2x minus 3. This is as good as that expression gets. Later on, we will call this what? Trinomial, which is a polynomial of 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. And the degree of this polynomial happens to be 2, which happens to be the highest power of x in the expression. So we'll see this in chapter 5, just to give you heads up. Combining the like terms in problem number 2, none of these guys are like. So this is already in good shape. Number 3, these guys are like terms. So are these guys, so they get to be combined. Do you see it? So as far as the x squares, what we do, we take the coefficient of x squares, which happens to be invisible ones. So you kind of go 1 plus 1, attach the common variable. And as far as the x's, the coefficient of x, which you don't see, is 1. So you kind of go 1 minus 4 plus 3, attach the common variable. So the final answer is you got 2 of these guys. And what is this? This is 4, so that's 0. So this is the final answer, right? Because you got 2x squared, excuse me guys, you got 4x minus 4x adds up to 0x. So x's disappear, you only get 2x squared for the final answer. Sometimes the expression involves fractions, okay? In order to do this, we need to first, what? Remove the parentheses, parentheses, and then what? Combine the like terms. Combine the like terms, if any. Okay, so the first thing I do is distribute the 12 by 1/6 and x over 4. How do you do that? You go 12 over 1 times 1/6 plus 12 over 1 times x over 4. So you multiply the 12 by each of these fractions inside the parentheses plus 5x. Now remember how we multiply fractions, correct? Inside each of these boxes, you perform the multiplication of fractions. Remember, we kind of cross-reduce them before you multiply. So we kind of go 6 goes into 12 twice, 4 goes into 12 3 times. So looks to me the answer is 2 plus what? 3x plus 5x. So now I can tell these guys are like terms and they get to be combined. So the answer is 2 plus 3 plus 5 times x. So the final answer is 2 plus 8x. Do you see it? So that's how you combine those guys. So remove the parentheses, then combine the like terms. Remember what like term is. Same variables and same powers. Gotta have same powers. Sometimes expressions involve grouping symbols, correct? Grouping symbols, such as parentheses, brackets, and braces. So these are called parentheses, brackets, and braces, correct? So how do you do these guys? Well, it turns out we start from the innermost parentheses first. As a matter of fact, this is the ranking of the simplification. First you do this guy, then you do the brackets, then the last thing you do is what's inside the braces. So this is the order of what? Simplification. So we start with innermost parentheses first. So we go 4 minus. Okay, what do? There is nothing to combine inside the parentheses, but I can distribute the 6. So that would be like 18x plus 12. So multiply the 6 by what's inside the parentheses. Don't forget the negative x. Okay, now that you remove the parentheses, see if you can simplify what's inside the brackets. Remember, these are the ranking of the what? High ranking of the grouping symbols. Parentheses first, brackets next, braces comes last. Okay, I see like terms here. Okay, so that would be 4 minus 18 minus x, so 18x minus 1x gives you 17x plus 12 plus 4. Now that you simplified what's inside the brackets, it's time to remove the brackets. How do you do that? Remember, there's an invisible negative 1 here. So negative 1 gets to be multiplied by 17x and 12. What does negative 1 do to the 17x and 12? It changes their signs. So you get 4 minus 17x minus 12 plus 4. Now look for like terms and combine. Well, this is one of a kind term. There is no other term with x in it, so that guy stays. I got 4 plus 4, which is 8. 8 minus 12, which is negative 4. Final answer. Do we all see it? Okay, so that's pretty much in a nutshell what combining like terms are. Okay, then we have what? An expression with parentheses, brackets, and braces. Remember, we start with the innermost parentheses first. Okay, so you kind of go 2 braces, brackets, 3x. Remember, there's an invisible negative 1 here. So to remove the parentheses, I need to distribute negative 1 by 2y minus 5x. What does negative 1 in front of the parentheses do to numbers inside the parentheses? It changes their signs. So you get negative 2y plus 5x, close the bracket. Now to remove this parentheses, I multiply negative 3 by 2x minus y. So what do I get? I get negative 6x plus 3y, close the braces. So remember, negative times negative is positive, correct? So now that we remove the parentheses, next is simplify what's inside the brackets. So you go 2 braces. I have like terms here. 3x plus 5x is 8x. Don't forget you still got negative 2y. Minus 6x plus 3y, and there goes the braces. There's nothing in front of the brackets here, so I'm just going to simply drop it because there is nothing in front of the bracket. So that would be 8x minus 2y, okay, minus 6x plus 3y. Now the last thing we do is simplify or combine the like terms inside the braces. Let's see if we have any like terms. Yes, we do. 8x and negative 6x combine. So does what? Negative 2y and 3y. So what do you get? You get 2. 8x minus 6x is 2x. Negative 2y plus 3y is just y. So now there is no operation between 2 and the braces. So that means in the land of mathematics, you have to multiply. So you distribute, correct? So what would you end up with? 2 times 2x is 4x, 2 times y is 2y. So that would be the final answer. Okay. Now that we know a little bit about like terms and combining them, so let's start solving the following linear equations. Remember, linear means the power of the x in all of these equations in this chapter will be 1. And that's an indication that there will be only one answer or solution to these equations. So how do you do this? Well, first thing first, as you all know, we get rid of this constant by subtracting 3 from both sides. Why? We always apply the opposite operation of what we see. Since positive 3 has been added to negative 7x, so to get rid of it, we subtract. So these guys add up to 0, negative 7x, that's 14. This is called numerical coefficient. So we divide both sides by numerical coefficient. In the land of mathematics, division is shown by fraction line. So when you say divide both sides by negative 7, that means put a fraction line and make sure the denominators are negative 7. So that's what they mean by divide both sides by numerical coefficient of x, which is negative 7. Okay, so what does that give us? X is equal to positive 14 divided by negative 7. The answer is negative 2. So this guy is called solution of the equation. So that's the answer. What does that mean? If you stick negative 2 here, that would be like negative 7 times negative 2, which is 14. 14 plus 3 is 17, so it checks. So that's the one-of-a-kind answer. All right, what about this guy? Well, this guy, you got x's on both sides. So the idea is step 1 is what? Collect x's to the left side, and numbers or constants to the right side of the equation, correct? Does it matter which side I collect the x's or the numbers? No, but it's, traditional that what? We collect the x's to the left and numbers to the right, because what's coming in later sections, when we deal with inequalities as opposed to equations, we read those from left to right. So it'd be nice to collect the x's to the left. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of negative 3x by adding 3x to both sides. Excuse me. So I get 8x, what? Plus 3x gives me 11x. Okay. Then I have to get rid of the positive 7 by subtracting negative 7. And that would give me 11x equals negative, what is this, 22, is it? And then I divide both sides by the numerical coefficient 11. So I get x equals negative 11 goes into 22, negative twice. That happens to be an accident, happy coincidence that we got the same answer. Not all the equations have solution equal to negative 2. Be careful. This guy has x's on both sides, and on top of it got a parentheses. So what we're going to do is add one more step to solve this. First step is what? Remove the parentheses. Okay, parentheses. Step 2 is what? Collect x's to the left. And step 3 is collect what? Constants or numbers to the right side of the equation. Okay, so let's get to remove the parentheses. Distribute the negative 4. So you get 4x minus 8. That would be minus 8x, positive 12 plus 4. Okay, combine these guys. You get negative 8x plus what? 16, 4x minus 8. Collect the x's to the left, so add 8x to both sides. So we get what? 12x minus 8 equals 16. Get rid of the negative 8. So by adding 8 to both sides, so you get what? 12x equals what? 24. And now divide both sides by the coefficient of x, which happens to be 12. So x is equal to 2. Okay, so that's called the solution of the equation. Okay, sometimes we got what? Parentheses on both sides, so that doesn't really change the strategy. We still have to remove the parentheses. So let's remove the parentheses by distributing these numbers outside of the parentheses. So you get negative 8x plus 24 equals negative 3x plus 12 plus x. Combine the like terms. I got these guys are like, so they get to be combined. So I get negative 3x and 1x. Remember, you don't see the coefficient is by default is 1. So you get what? Negative 2x plus 12. Remember, negative 3x plus 1x is negative 3 plus 1. Attach the coefficient, the common variable. So you get negative 2x. Okay, so now get rid of the negative 2x by adding 2x to both sides. So you get negative 6x plus 24 equals 12. Get rid of the 24 by adding negative 24 to both sides. So, or subtracting 24 from each side. So you get what? You get negative 12. Divide both sides by the coefficient of x. And remember, division is shown by fraction lines, which happens to be negative 6. So that kind of tells you these guys cancel. So 1 positive x equals negative over negative is positive. 6 goes into 12 twice. Once again, x is 2. It just so happens by pure accident, all the examples I have chosen, the answer comes up to 2. So be careful, that's just happy coincidence. Okay, sometimes in your equation you have parentheses as well as what? Other grouping symbols like brackets. Remember how we do this. You kind of start with the innermost parentheses. So this is where you begin simplifying. Okay, so that would be 3x. Remember, this guy is negative 1. So what does negative 1 do when you distribute it by what's inside the parentheses? It changes signs of each of those terms. Okay, 4x becomes negative 4x, negative 6 becomes positive 6. Distribute this guy, so you get 5x minus 30. Okay, combine the like terms here, so you get 2 times 3x minus 4x is negative x plus 6. Okay, now you remove the parentheses, distribute the 2 brackets. You get negative 2x plus 12 is equal to 5x minus 30. Okay, collect the x's to the left, so subtract negative 5 and subtract 5x, you get negative 7x plus 12 equals negative 30. Subtract 12, you get negative 7x minus 42. Divide both sides by the coefficient of x, which happens to be negative 7. So x is equal to what? 8, is it? No, it's not. 6, is it? Right? So the solution of the equation. Right? Sometimes you got fractions. Okay, if you have a single fraction on the left and a single fraction on the right, all you have to do is cross multiply. So we'll kind of go like this. So that's called cross multiplication. Remember, the requirement is you have a single fraction on the left and a single fraction on the right. Give a denominator of 1 to 5 and change it to a fraction. So what I mean is multiply 1 by negative x, set it equal to 5 times a. Okay. No more fractions. So that's how you get rid of the fractions in any equations. Remember, you gotta have an equal sign to do this, provided you have single fraction on either side. So this is negative x equals 40. Divide both sides by negative 1, which you don't see. So the solution is negative 40 because positive over negative is negative. So same thing applies for this guy. So if you don't have a fraction on either side of the equal sign, give a denominator of 1 and change the whole number into fraction. Remember, I have one fraction on the left, one fraction on the right. So therefore, I do what is known as cross multiplication, correct? Why would I do that? To get rid of the fractions. What is cross multiplication? That means multiply what? The denominator of the fraction on the left by the numerator of the fraction on the right, set it equal to what? Numerator of the fraction on the left by the denominator of the fraction on the right. Now you got this, remove the parentheses, so that's 4x minus 2 equals negative 6. Okay, so what we do is what? Add 2. Incidentally, you don't have to show these steps. I'm just exaggerating the steps for those of us who have forgotten how to solve equations. These guys go away, so you get 4x equals negative 4. Divide both sides by 4, so the final answer is negative 1. There goes the solution. So the question arises, what if we got more than one fraction on either side? Like here, we got 2 fractions on the left, 1 fraction on the right. Do you see it? In this case, in these cases, cross multiplication, what? Will not work. Will not work. So what do we have to do? We need to find what? To find the LCD of all what? The denominators on both sides of the equation. Yes. So we need to find the LCD. So if you don't mind, let me just transfer this problem to the next page. So this would be like page 5. So what was the question? 1/3 of x plus 5 over 6 equals 2x over 1. So I need to find the lowest common denominator of 3, 6, and 1. 3, 6, and 1. You know what that is. That means I'm looking for the smallest number such that 3 and 6 and 1 divides into. Okay, so it turns out the magic number is 6 because 3 goes into 6 twice, 6 goes into 6 once, and 1 goes into 6 times. So we are good. So what you do, first step is find LCD. Step 2 is multiply what? Both sides by the LCD. So go like this. 6 times 1 over 3, 1/3 of x plus 5 over 6, and 6 times 2x over 1. So what you do is put the problem inside the parentheses, and in front of the parentheses, put the LCD. So now I'll give a denominator of 1 to LCD. And now step 3 is, you guessed it, remove the parentheses. Remove the parentheses. All right, how do you remove the parentheses? By distribution law. So distribute the 6 by these 2 fractions and by 2x. So 6 times 1/3, remember what that is, 6 over 1 times 1/3 x, 6 over 1 times 5 over 6, 6 over 1 times 2x over 1. So to distribute the 6, what you have to do is write 6, twice on the left and once on the right. Twice on the left because you got 2 fractions, once on the right because you got 1 fraction. Inside each of these boxes, perform the multiplication of fractions. How do you multiply fractions? First, you cross-reduce them. So you go 3 goes into 6 twice, 6 goes into 6 once, and there is nothing to cancel on the right side. So the answer is 2x plus 5 is equal to what? 6 times 2x is 12x. Notice no more fractions. That's how you clear the fractions. Okay, subtract 12x. So you get negative 10x plus 5 is equal to 0. And now subtract 5. So you get negative 10x is equal to negative 5. Divide both sides by the coefficient of x, which is negative 10. And lo and behold, the answer is what? 5 over 10. But you reduce this to its lowest term, divide top and bottom by 5. So 5 goes into 5 once, into 10 twice. So the final answer is what? 1/2. And that pretty much concludes section 2.1. Thank you.